If you are new, welcome. If not, welcome back. Today, I'm going to be flying the DJI Mini 2 in low lighting conditions. So before you go and fly at night, you're going to need anti-collision lights that are visible at 3 statute miles or above. Here it is 7:45 p.m. and the sun is starting to set, and I'm really enjoying the colors of the sunset here, as well as the crispness of this video. It's just beautiful. My thoughts are the amount of grain in the video will increase as the sun gets further down. Here we are starting with the drone facing away from the sun and towards the darkness over there, and the colors are still good, although there is a slight amount of grain. Here I'm tilting the gimbal downwards and the land becomes brighter. The trees here are colorful, and I'm surprised that the quality of the footage is still good even after the sun has set. Now as I move the drone gimbal back up towards the horizon, the land will get darker and the sky will get brighter. When the drone is facing away from the sun, the colors are easier to see at certain angles. Now when I head back towards the sun, it becomes more difficult to see the colors of the land. Here we're viewing the DNG file, and the sky is actually a lot darker than what the video shows. So the sun is a tint of orange and the land is completely dark. The reasoning behind this is the ISO is at 100, exposure 0, f2.8 in 1/500th of a second. Here's the edited version of the DNG file, and I'm absolutely loving the colors here. The orange is much more bright and the blues in the sky are better, and the horizon makes for a soothing look. Here we are going back towards the lake over here and away from the sun. The low light quality is okay. When I tilt the drone gimbal down, the land does get brighter here. So here I'm looking at the land behind where the sun has set, and at this angle it is almost pitch black. It does become green again, but not as green as it was earlier in the video. Here we are viewing the DNG file, and the sky is blue. The sun is a bit more orange. That is because I changed the shutter speed to 1/125th of a second. The land looks about the same here. Here you can see that the sun has moved below the horizon, and the colors of the image are starting to fade away as the sun gets further down. Surprisingly, after the sun has set, not much has changed besides the color variation of these trees down here. See if I go a little bit higher, get some more light. The trees do get brighter, a little bit more green, but not as bright as earlier when I started the video. What I'm starting to notice is the difference in time does affect the light. Here it is 8:29 p.m., about 22 minutes after the previous flight, and there is a lot of darkness. The sky is still slightly blue, but it's hard to see the colors of the land again. Now I'm going to fly over towards the city and showcase the lighting to see if there's any difference whatsoever and how the quality has changed over this period of time. Firstly, there is a large amount of grain in the footage here. The city lights still show through clearly. As I head towards the left, the lack of light causes more grain in the footage. As I move the drone to the right, there is still a large amount of grain, just not as much as over to the left, away from the sun. As I move the drone away from the sunlight, there is a lot of grain and it's very hard to see. Here is an image from the drone taken at night. While there is still lighting, you can see that the lighting actually helps brighten up the photo, and the grass in the front is green, while the grass in the back is hardly visible. Here is a picture from the drone with a minute amount of light. If you look closely at the photo, you'll see an excessive amount of grain, and the lighting actually is a little bit blotched, which kind of helps the photo, but not in a good way. Here's the edited version of the photo, and it looks absolutely horrendous. You can see all of the noise and the colors from the light are making the picture look a lot worse. Here we're going to be flying into the dark. You see the two lights down there on the ground, and now honestly, it looks like there's no lighting here from the stars or the moon or the street lights. Now this is away from the lighting, so this is going to be the case. Now, I'm not surprised as the sensor is 12 megapixel, but I would hope that sometime in the future we would be able to recording in situations where there is little to no lighting at all. 4:02 a.m. It may not look like there's a whole lot going on here, but if you look real closely, you can see the glow in the sky. Here I'm going to move the drone around to see if there's any other source of light, such as the city light or possibly moonlight. As I move the drone to the left, you'll be able to see the moon and also the city lights as well. Here I'm going to zoom in the video. Here there isn't much to see besides the moon and the other sources of light in the city. Honestly, I was expecting more from this sensor. I was hoping to see a lot more light and land, but it doesn't look that way. Here's an unedited image of the city line facing towards the moon. You can see the moon in the middle. It's very bright and orange, and you can also see the city lights there. There isn't a lot of grain here, which is pretty nice. Here we are looking at the edited version. It's not much better, but there is excessive amount of grain here. There is a lot more blue in the sky, and you can start to see the little tiny stars on the left-hand side and also the city lights. Now the moon is orange, but there is also an effect where the moon multiplies. Here it is 4:34 a.m. and it has gotten a little bit cloudy, but you could also see the grain much more than you could before. 4:36 a.m. There is a 2-minute difference here, and I am absolutely loving the color in the sky and the trees here. Also, I'm not seeing as much grain as 2 minutes ago. It's hard to see when the gimbal is tilted down. Now when I tilt the gimbal up, you can still see the horizon, although it's gray and grainy. Moving towards the left, you can still see the city lights. Now heading over to the right, there isn't much of a difference here. Here's the raw DNG file at the same time that the video was recorded, and the clouds look pretty gray. The greens in the trees are very faint. Now here, I'm going to show you the edited version. There's actually a vast improvement in the colors here. The greens have been lifted up and are more vivid, and it looks like it's almost daytime, even though it's only 4:30 in the morning. Now, my biggest gripe with this photo is there is an excessive amount of grain. It looks really blotched if you look closely at it. Now, if you're looking from afar, you might not notice it, but when you're staring at it for a little bit, it just looks horrible. Here it's 5:05 a.m. and now the sun has risen. Here we're heading towards the sun, and I'm flying out toward the lake. I'm absolutely loving the colors of the trees here. They're very green and vivid. And also the sky, you can see just a tint of blue and the gray clouds. And also you can start to see the lake as I move along quicker. Here we're flying away from the sun, and I'm tilting the gimbal upwards. You can see the green in the trees, and there isn't as much green as facing the sun where it would be if it wasn't a cloudy day. Here I'm going to tilt the gimbal downwards to see if there is any differences in the video. The gimbal moves quickly. It does look a little bit choppy. It is bright. Now moving the gimbal back up, you'll see the land gets a little bit darker and the sky gets brighter. About a half hour after the previous flight, I am ascending with the drone, and the land is really dark, although the sky is brightly lit, which is strange, whereas earlier the land was a bit brighter than this. Now we're going to tilt the gimbal downwards to see if there's any differences in the color variations, and I'm liking the greens here. It's really bright and vivid. This is actually better than earlier. And as I go a little bit further, you can start to see the trails and more trees. This footage at 5:35 a.m. is a vast improvement over the footage that I took at 4:02 a.m. Yes, it may be cloudy outside, but the footage is usable. Here's the raw DNG file taken at 5:35 a.m. Now you can start to see the sun peeping out over the horizon there, and also the greens are a little bit bland, same with the sky being gray. Also a good amount of grain here, but not as much as before. Here we're looking at the edited version of the photo, and the colors have been brought to the surface at a much better level. And also, I'm loving the greens here, and the sky doesn't look as bad as earlier. I am not noticing as much grain in the edited version versus the DNG file. One thing that I have learned about the video quality in Lowlight is that as time goes on and there's less light, the video quality does get slightly worse, as well as the image quality. The sensor does try to compensate for the lack of light in the video and the photos, and as time goes on and there is more light let into the sensor, it does also compensate for that, so that way it doesn't look overexposed and makes for a pleasing looking photo or video. Overall, definitely not the greatest video quality at nighttime, especially where there's little to no light, but also not the worst. That's pretty much it for the DJI Mini 2 low light test. If you liked the video, make sure you drop a like on it and comment down below. Also, thank you again. Thank you for taking the time out of your day or night for watching my content. And also, I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you may be. Thank you once again. I will see you soon. Peace out.